You have been watching The Point with me, Liu Xin. When we come back, U.S. officials misled the American people about the grim reality of its war in Afghanistan, according to newly released documents. Who's to blame and who can be trusted to tell the truth? Stay with us. New documents reveal how the U.S. government misled the American people about the winnability of the war in Afghanistan throughout its 18-year campaign in the country. Released by the Washington Post on December the 9th, the Afghan Papers include more than 2,000 pages of previously unpublished notes of interviews with more than 400 insiders. Why were the American people told a twisted story, and how costly and damaging is the deceit? And is such misinformation par for the cause when it comes to reporting on U.S. wars abroad? From Kabul, I'm pleased to be joined by Ghulam Jilani Zwak, CEO of Kabul News TV and political analyst, and in the Beijing studio, Einar Tangen, current affairs commentator. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. So the Washington Post reported that U.S. officials made rosy pronouncements they knew to be false and hid unmistakable evidence that the war had become unwinnable. For instance, Bob Crowley, the retired Army colonel who served as a counterinsurgency advisor in Afghanistan in 2013 and 2014, told government interviewers that truth was rarely welcome at military headquarters in Kabul. Everyone just wanted to hear good news, so bad news was often stifled. When we try to air larger strategic concerns about the willingness, capacity or corruption of the Afghan government, it was clear it wasn't welcome and the boss wouldn't like it. Every data point, he added, was altered to present the best picture possible. And Michael Flynn, the Director of Intelligence for the International Security Assistance Force in Afghanistan from June 2009 to October 2010, who would later serve briefly as President Trump's national security advisor before leaving the post in disgrace, stated that for a while the operational successes on a daily basis might have made me feel good, but after 2006, for me, it was actually irrelevant because we were just killing so many people and it wasn't making any difference at all. Also, John Sopko, the head of the federal agency that concluded the interviews, acknowledged to the Post that the documents show the American people have constantly been lied to. Mr. Zwak, if I can call you by that, your reaction to the papers?
Well, this document shows that they not only mislead the people of United States, in fact they mislead the whole world, because they came to Afghanistan to fight the terrorism, and they lied to the people of the world about this fight, about the war against terrorism. So they lied and they mislead the whole world, the Afghan people, and also the regional countries. Terrorism is a threat for the whole world. It's a threat for the regional countries as well. So if they lied about the war in Afghanistan and mislead the people of America, they also mislead the people of the region. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was not possible for them to tell the truth about this war because they have hidden agendas. They came here to fight terrorism, but in fact, they use terrorism as tool. They increase their policies caused to empower the terrorist groups. When they came to Afghanistan, there were only two terrorist groups, Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Now, the American themselves says that there are more than 20 terrorist groups. So this was not possible to tell the truth to the people because they had hidden agendas. They not came here to fight the terrorism. They use terrorism for their regional aims and strategic aims.
All right. Einar, I want to hear your perspective, first of all, from the U.S. perspective, what this revelation mean for the American public and your reaction to what Mr. Zwak was talking about.
Well, in terms of what this represents, this is another repeat of what happened in Vietnam, ideology and gung-ho military above reality. You know, this idea that you can fight these wars, intervene in other countries, didn't work out before, and it still continues to be an issue. President Bush, in all due respect, was wrong. He should not have gone charging up San Juan Hill thinking that he was going to have a great victory. We've been mired in this. It's cost $2 trillion US, and the impact goes on. In addition to that, you had 140,000 total people, including 2,300 American troops who have died in this thing. What do we have to show for it? They're all going home. So things are going literally back to exactly where they were, except more people have died, there's more confusion, and there's bound to be more bloodshed as the vacuum invites a power struggle.
Mr. Zwak, let me go back to you. In terms of the impact on Afghanistan, what do you think this deliberate twisting of information has made on your country's current situation? And from your standpoint, if the truth would have been made public to not just the American people, but people around the world, what would be different now for your country and your people?
Yeah. According to this war, during this war based on a lie, more than 2,000 people, American people, killed, but more than 100,000 Afghan has been killed in this period. So the real victims are Afghan people. Afghan people are suffering this war. In fact, now the United States lost the legitimacy of presence in Afghanistan. They were there to fight terrorism, but they used terrorism as a tool. So they lied to the people and they mislead the people. Now they lose the legitimacy. The big question for Afghan people now, when the United States saying that we want to withdraw our forces from Afghanistan and want to reach to a peace deal with Taliban, the big question is that American tell lie about the war in Afghanistan, but what about the peace? Are American or honest in peace or not? So it's very difficult to trust American in war and peace, and now this is a big question in the mind of Afghan people that why Americans are here in when they are saying we want to withdraw our forces from Afghanistan, really they will withdraw their forces or not. So Afghan people lose their confidence on the United States, and United States lost the legitimacy to present in Afghanistan.
All right. Einar, the papers included interviews not only from U.S. Officials but also from Afghan governors, aid officials, ambassadors, and etc. Now, The Guardian called this an accumulation of bad faith, groupthink, and cowardice. What is your assessment of exactly what happened? Was it intentional lying, or was it, as this Guardian assessment was pointing out, who do you think are really for blame for such collective long-term failure to tell the truth?
Well, quite frankly, I don't agree that the United States was trying to encourage terrorism there. We were there to, in essence, fight it, but for the wrong reasons. We chose the wrong methods. In terms of who was behind this, it's not, you know, the terrible thing is its incompetence. The fact that you have a group of people who are over there, especially the military industrial complex, they're selling bombs. You know, $2 billion was spent. Where do you think that money went to? The people who were receiving the funds really did, or talked themselves into believing that they were making a difference. The military wanted to believe that they could do regime change, right? The administration wanted to tell the American public that we are going to win. It's just a matter of time. The fact is, you combine them all together. It was greed, disinformation, and I agree, cowardice by those people, because obviously, as you see by the 2,000 pages of documents, there were people who were speaking truth to power, but they were simply ignored.
Okay, Mr. Zwak, your reaction to Einar's assessment that the Americans were not there to push simply their agenda, that they wanted to do something good probably, but because of inability and cowardice and probably a groupthink failure that this happened?
Well, this failure is not because of the ability. This failure was, this is not intentionally they did this. They intentionally provide opportunity to the terrorist group to grow. Intentionally they provide opportunity for the corruption in Afghanistan. In fact, they want a very weak government in Afghanistan for their regional agendas. What they did in Afghanistan, this was not according to ability or this is part of their policy. And this is why they lied to the people, American people, because it was not possible for them to tell the truth to the people. Because the agenda they had, that was not the agenda they told to the people when they were coming here. They didn't come here to fight the terrorists. They had another agenda, and it was not possible to tell the people about their real agenda.
Mr. Zwak, do you believe that if the American government would have told the truth a lot earlier, or would have admitted that it was not possible to win the war in Afghanistan or withdrawn from your country a lot earlier, do you think the situation in your country would be better by now?
Well, when American came here, Taliban decided not to fight. But this was American policy to push Taliban to fight again. So if they were honest and bring peace in Afghanistan and stability, it was quite possible, not only by military means, by political means. When Taliban went to Pakistan and built sanctuaries there, America ignored that. So America intentionally ignored that. I think this is not only Pakistan. America, this was a common program of Pakistan and America to let the Taliban to establish sanctuaries in Pakistan. It was quite possible if they were honest. Really, it was possible to bring peace in Afghanistan and stability, but they didn't want. The situation now, this is intentionally, American bring the situation intentionally.
I get your point. I don't know, Einar, whether you agree with that. I guess you do not totally. Yeah, you want to quickly react to that, but I do want to also want to ask you the role of the media of the United States, because for 18 years, obviously, they were collectively, at least according to this article, of course, there are people who say not every media in the U.S. were not questioning the winnability of this war. So the role of the media, but first in reaction to what Mr. Zwak was talking about.
Well, I would tend to disagree. I don't know exactly what the point he's making, that the U.S. went in there with some agenda to cause more confusion or establish basis for the Taliban in Pakistan. That sounds a bit odd to me. If he has some proof of that, that would be welcome. But in terms of the press situation, yes, the press has let it down. In the U.S. right now, we've seen a polarization. You're either for or against things, and the facts are just convenient tools that you can use when they suit you. So at this point, I think the press does need to, not only on this issue, but almost all issues happening in the world, stop trying to make change happen and just report what is actually happening.
What about the government?
The governments are governments. They're always going to, and this is true of all governments, no one wants to be the bearer of bad news in a government. You don't want to say we just wasted $1.5 or $2 billion and we should stop and leave.
So we all have to be more sophisticated.
That's what cowardice is.
Yeah, all right, we have to leave it there. Many thanks to my guest from Kabul, Ghulam Jilani Zwak, CEO of Kabul News TV and political analyst, and here in Beijing, Einar Tangen. Thank you so much for having been on this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle The Point with LX. Thanks for watching. You've got the point, I hope.